Greetings. Welcome to this Positive Intelligence initial pod session. This is the first meeting of the pod at the beginning of the 6-week program. My name is Anissa Wilhelmstetter. I'm delighted to be here as your practice partner and today's pod leader. I'm a creativity and creative change coach and the founder of Creative Change Coaching. In these 15 minutes, we will focus quickly on what is expected, what a pod is, what can be expected, and the 3 discussion topics that we will take into our 3 rounds of discussion. I would like to share my screen. Presentation mode. There we have it. Okay. Podcast pod meeting week 1. We are looking for a sustainable solution with positive intelligence. We want to go to the root cause of any of our problems. When we want to lose weight, we have all these New Year's resolutions, we go on a course. What makes what we learn sustainable? What makes new habits sustainable? We go to the root level, the saboteur, what is actually causing the difficulty, and then we receive insights, and the insights we act on to build our strength, our mental muscle. Practice is important. Regular practice that becomes daily practice and not something one does as a temporary fix. And then what is different is that we're also integrating frameworks instead of having separate, often disparate frameworks that are in conflict with one another. We want to bring everything we know, our experience, our learning, different models together into an integral framework. When one is triggered, it is important to always pause. Otherwise, our saboteurs make our choices for us. Pause, and then we want to practice. For example, a PQ rep. You inhale and exhale 3 times, and that is one practice. Another is to tense and release your muscles. You will learn more about it, and then you proceed with what you were willing to do or what needs to be done instead of avoiding it. We pause, we practice, we proceed. In positive intelligence, you will notice we're always balancing. We're looking at the saboteurs, what gets in the way, and to bring our sage powers to support us. We do not want to be like Sisyphus with the negativity, the unnecessary burdens of the saboteur stopping us and making our choices, only to have the boulder roll down to the bottom of the hill again. These setbacks when it comes to New Year's resolution or any new habits. We want to be the sage. And to do that, we want to bring our sage powers. The PQ is the positive intelligence quotient. It is the percentage of the time our choices are made from a sage perspective rather than being left to old programming of the saboteurs. Your PQ will determine your well-being and your performance, how successful you are, and how well you feel. So we boost our self-command muscle through PQ reps. When it comes to the saboteurs and the sage, the saboteur motivates us through aversion. That means compliance, avoidance, preventing punishment, so prevention focus. And so there we have negative emotions, fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, and insecurity. The sage motivates us through attraction, something to look forward to, hope, positive emotions, empathy, curiosity, passion, purpose, and creativity. So in our pod discussion, we want to agree to 100% confidentiality. In this session, I volunteered as leader. We will share a little about ourselves, our likely saboteurs, negative emotions, our goals and desired outcomes, the tricks the saboteur might use to derail our daily practice, and commitments we can make to ensure a strong pod. What is a pod? Pod is a support and accountability group ranging in size from 3 to many members. Why do we have a pod? There's a 500% increase in success rate when people attempting to create positive new habits do so within a support or accountability structure instead of working alone. So this human interaction helps by as much as 500%. What do we actually do? Weekly meet, ideally Monday, Tuesday, after everyone has watched the week's video. The suggested duration is 5 minutes per pod member. And the daily online check-in to report how we're doing with the app-guided practice. Just a few seconds, 30 seconds, check in. And what's important is we feel each other's presence and have the opportunity to reach out if we feel we're falling back. So again, we assign the pod leader, which can change from week to week. The leader will schedule a meeting, make sure everyone's watched the video. During the meeting, keep time or assign someone to do so, and support people so they can all contribute equally. And if a member hasn't checked in online for a couple of days, we make sure someone reaches out to them so no one is left behind. We aspire to create a pod that is safe and supportive. Therefore, we do not judge or criticize any member based on what is a relative level of progress, some standard that is arbitrary, or because of consistency of practice. We support and encourage, so compassion, the pull, the invitation, rather than judging, criticizing, blaming, causing them to push away from what they want. And to this end, trust and vulnerability are two core components. Trust is the critical foundation for effective pods, and vulnerability generates trust. Invulnerability erodes trust. And trust is something we co-create because of our willingness to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable, we dare to push 10% beyond our comfort zones. We choose to reveal or share a little bit more about ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, and 10% beyond a comfort zone when it comes to vulnerability varies from person to person. For one person, it might mean a willingness to acknowledge they have saboteurs and are not perfect. For another, they might be able to offer details about their victim saboteur, for example, and how this is actually harming relationships or the consequences of it. So again, we won't compare or judge one another's expressions of vulnerability relative to one another. And each person gets to choose what their 10% is, and each person can only know for themselves. And on the bonus, vulnerability is contagious. So when we are vulnerable, we make it safer for others to do the same. And let this be our contribution. So each member's 10% beyond comfort contribution, it will fuel a positive spiral of increasingly trusting and safe space for all of us. The pod becomes a safe microcosm for practicing how to be more vulnerable and authentic, 10% at a time, each time. And this will improve our relationships, not only in the pod, but outside as well, because trust is limited by how vulnerable each is willing to be. So let's practice that willingness to be vulnerable. We will, the goals of this pod meeting, establish the pod's protocols, commitments, and agreements. so it can support us in achieving our desired goals for the program. We will help each other get clear about goals for the program and how to maintain success throughout the 6 weeks. And there will be 3 discussion topics. Round 1, discussion topic: my goals and desired outcomes from this program. Some tips when it comes to discussion of this topic, our goals and outcomes. Let's make them specific. Let's make them excited. Let's make them so we feel motivated. Motivation is key. This is a mental fitness program. 80% of the value comes from doing the daily app-guided practices, because this is what builds our mental muscles. So our discussion tips: we will choose a desired outcome that is highly motivational, focusing on, and it will help us with performance. Our goal and outcome can be in wellness, such as reduced stress, increased peace of mind, joy, relationships, and I've added in learning. So round 1, discussion tips. Really envision that desired outcome. So it's specific, it's tangible, and you have a visceral sense, a felt sense of what it will feel like when you achieve that outcome. And you can imagine an actual scene that showcases you achieving this desired outcome, and step into that picture of possibility. Example, if your goal is to reduce your stress, you can imagine waking up after a refreshing night of sleep. So this we can do live, or you can use a recording. Start round 1 of 3 now. Let us promise 100% confidentiality as we go into this round. Hands up, let's agree to this. Can we agree? Show of hands. I promise that I will not disclose any information revealed by anyone in this pod that might be considered personal or private to anyone outside this pod. So whatever we do here, we will not share outside. Those things that are personal and private. My goals and desired outcomes for this program are. What are our goals and desired outcomes? We will now break out 5 minutes. And welcome back. Round 2 discussion. My saboteurs might try to derail my app-guided daily practice by. And again, as always, we will look at tips. Watch out for saboteur self-preservation. They will try to discourage us from doing this work, because this work includes weakening the saboteur. And 3 of the strategies they use, 1 is time. You don't have time. It's helpful to remember this work demands less than 3% of our waking minutes over 6 weeks. Saboteurs are wasting far more than 3% of our mental and emotional energy. And 3% investment over time, over 6 weeks, we will gain far greater efficiency in use of our time for years to come. And the second self-preservation strategy of a saboteur: if you're currently skeptical of this program, consider the difference between this. So imagine the scale and you're weighing your options. The sage is being discerning to protect you against falsehood, versus the saboteur that is being cynical to protect their own control over you. So not your best interests. How would you tell the difference? You can study research, explore others' experience with the program, and this can be reassuring. You can't discover your blind spots if you insist they don't exist. And the program's greatest benefits comes, again, doing the exercise. Practice, practice, practice. And this way we generate our own personal evidence. And then the third Self-preservation is the saboteurs have a way of saying, I'm good for you, and each speaks their own language. The judge says, I protect you. The controller says, I get work done. Without me, it wouldn't get done. Stickler says, I ensure quality. Without me being such a perfectionist, who knows what you will produce, and so on. How do we counter I'm good for you? Saboteurs are really never our best option. They're making our choices for us. And all research evidence is that the sage will perform better, feel better, generate better relationships than a saboteur ever could. And you will see how this is in the second half of the program. But for now, let's go to round 2. My saboteurs might try to derail my app-guided daily practice by and finally, round 3 discussion. My saboteurs might sabotage my pod commitment and participation by anything you don't like about pod members or the participation that you're being asked to do is a clue of how we can grow. Saboteurs will definitely try to discourage us from doing this work, again, because it weakens them. And remember the strategies that they use to undermine us. Our pod is a microcosm of the world, made up of others who have different styles, different saboteurs, different strengths, different ways of bringing weakness. And how we show up in the pod reveals most likely how we show up elsewhere in other areas of our lives, including other relationships. So again, the pod provides a safe space for us to expose our saboteur reactions, which are usually to other people's saboteurs or imperfections. And we want to practice a different way to experiment in the safe space in healthy relationships. Some pods stay together for years. So yes, welcome back. I would like to share my screen again. So returning to our slide. Reminder of pod commitments. Attend the weekly pod meeting, having watched that week's video. Weekly video is made available over the weekend. The pods to meet on Monday or early Tuesday. And the daily online check-in with the pod. Just a 30-second report on how your practice is going. And if someone hasn't checked in, again, a reminder, if they haven't for a couple of days, let's one of us make sure that we reach out to them and that no one is left behind. So to start your round 3 of the discussion, my saboteurs might sabotage my pod commitment and participation by. Let your pod know if you want any particular support from them to help with your commitment. So here you have it. I want to thank you for attending this session in preparation of our 15-minute discussion and commitment. Until later or next time, I will stop my share and I will see you in the session.